You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Glad that you're here with us. We are live on CKLU 96.7 FM each and every weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. That's Monday to Friday. We're also streaming at cklu.ca. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app logo. You can download that logo as well and take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. And also, we're streaming at Facebook. On Facebook live streaming video, facebook.com/Sudbury News and youtube.com/Sudbury News. So we're on those two platforms. Thankful for those platforms and for those that moderate them. We're doing our best to be in line with the community standards as much as we possibly can, as we just want to openly discuss the news. This is Sudbury News, your views on the news right here in Greater Sudbury. Pretty much the only community conversation on issues and news, things that are important to us and that we, think about on a daily basis as we try and navigate our way through our lives and try and make sense of our community, our province, our country, our world, and trying to connect the dots on the show as much as we possibly can. Using myself as a volunteer and someone who just noticed a need in the community to facilitate a conversation like this. And so grateful for CKLU being a community radio station, one that you yourself can also have your own show if you so choose. All you have to do is email gm@cklu.ca, pitch your idea, and you can have your own radio show. You can also live stream it like us, or you don't have to. Either way. You can also support the radio station by going to cklu.ca. Just click donate, and you can donate to help support the station, keep the lights on, keep the airwaves open. It's mainly run by volunteers, and so it really relies on your support. And so you can volunteer your time, or you can volunteer through donating monetarily to keep CKLU going. We're grateful for the station. Been around since 1984. We're now started in a little trailer up at Laurentian University. Now it's in the old Telegraph building, part of the new MacEwan School of Architecture, all under the umbrella of Laurentian University. So I guess with that, I might as well just give the disclaimer that all the views expressed on this show are that of the participants, meaning yourselves who are commenting, myself as the facilitator of the conversation, and any of the news articles that we share are theirs alone, not ours. So whoever says something is responsible for what they say, and the station is not responsible for it. Doesn't reflect anything that they think or say, or Laurentian University. It does not reflect anything that Laurentian University, their staff, faculty. It's that of our own. We're just going to take ownership of our own comments. And so with that, let's just dive right in with some good morning salutations. First of all, Denise, hope you're having a great beginning to your week. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Maurice. Thanks for being with us. Good morning. Denise. Yeah, there's more than one Denise out there. Go figure. Good morning, Denise. Love your show. Oh, thank you. Well, that might have been the same Denise. It was. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. There is more than one Denise, though. I know that. That come on the show regularly. Good morning, Vin. Hope you're having a great morning. Good morning, Monique. Good morning, Sudbury. David says, good morning. Stay safe. Still in extended care rehab. Well, thanks for the update, Dave. We've been wanting to hear how you were doing, and I'm glad to hear that it sounds positive enough. So thank you so much, and I hope that you're on your way to a full recovery. Danica, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Belinda, good morning. Try not to make try not to make a difference of opinion a means of personal conflict. Interesting. I like that. These sound like almost personalized sayings, not that you're going on Google and just grabbing them. Yo, Jesse, good morning. Hope you're having a great morning. And Jerome, good morning. AJ and folks from Cambridge. Wow. Long ways away. And I know there's many others who listen or watch, not from Sudbury, maybe just from around Sudbury, North Shore, Ontario, Northern Ontario, Canada, world. I know that many people who might have lived in Sudbury continue to just check in on the show and want to find out what's going on. And it's a good way to check in. So we're grateful to have you on. Appreciate you being here as well. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, comment mainly because this is your show on your station. And speaking of that, let's dive right in. We got a lot to talk about today. Got a little bit of sports update from the three Spartans teams. And I guess we're going to do quite a bit of deep diving into the state that is Canada at the moment. And it looks like there's not much in terms of just local centric news, but all the news does affect us. And so we do want to kind of look at, how our world is. And speaking of Dave, I wanted to actually let Dave know that we have something that he's been wanting us to talk about for a long time on the show. And so it'll be good for him. So he's curious, but those disclaimers didn't work for Fox News. Why would they work here? Not that your views aren't very one-sided. Yeah, that's true. I'd like to ask a question back to you, Dave. Are your views one-sided? Or are they two-sided? So today we'll find out because this show is for you, Dave. This is Dave's show on Dave's station, and we'll call it Dave News today. Dave's News. Because it's just for you. You wanted us to do a deep dive into the climate situation and all the heating up of the world and how hot the week has been. I went to do a little bit of digging into that. So we found some stuff that'll basically clarify some of the reasons why we've experienced some of the hottest temperatures on record. And you'll be happy to know that I've done this for you personally. And I think we'll all enjoy it, though, at the same time. We'll all benefit from the show later on when we deep dive into why it's been so hot. So I'm glad that you're very open-minded. So we'll see if that indeed, after you receive the information that I found out today of why it's been so hot, you'll feel very enlightened, I'm sure. This morning now, CBC North, Monday morning Mayor Paul Lefebvre, Morning North with Marcus Schwabe. So the mayor is speaking with Marcus Schwabe this morning, which is great. Glad to hear that the mayor is doing that. But glad to have him on this show anytime, and he's welcome anytime to be on the show, which I totally open that invitation up, and he'll be able to get the word out. I'm sure someone will pass on the word to him. He's welcome on the show. All he has to do is email sudburynews@gmail.com and come on and be able to speak to all you fine folks. Don't take climate change advice from people who fly around in private jets. Yes, exactly. I would think the same. I wouldn't want to take my advice from someone who's smoking telling me not to smoke. That just is the way it is. So let's get in some weather, sports, and then we'll talk about some of the issues and news headlines of our city and our world when we come back right after this. Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca, and currently it's 16 degrees. Not all that hot when you picture the fervor that many people are under that we're burning up at the moment. 16 degrees, it's rather comfortable, and it's a light rain shower. Today we can expect much of the same, mainly cloudy with a 60% chance of showers. Risk of thunderstorm this afternoon, high of 24, humidex 28, UV 5 or moderate. Tonight, partly cloudy, 60% chance of showers early this evening with a risk of thunderstorm, low of 14. Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud, high of 26, humidex 30. Long range, Tuesday, 26, mix of sun and cloud. Wednesday, got your 30% chance of showers, high of 28, 30% chance of showers as well on Thursday, and also a high of 28. 27 is your high on Friday with a 60% chance of showers, and then back down to 30% showers, percent chance of showers on Saturday and Sunday, 24 degrees. And there's your longer range forecast, your satellite view here. Today was taken today at 3:30. Looks like a lot of clearing, but there's some cloud activity coming in right through the upper peninsula of Michigan there. And maybe we're going to get a little bit of that, not sure. But that's the way your satellite looks, and that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with a little bit of a sports report and much, much more right after this. Well, the 3 Sudbury Spartans teams were in action over the weekend. So the under-18s unfortunately lost in the quarterfinals, and so their season is now over. And then you had the men's team who played in North Bay. They lost that game to North Bay, but apparently they're going to still be going into the playoffs, and so that's good news. Not good that they ended their season without a win, but and then the under-16s are going into the semis. So one of the Spartans football clubs, under-16 squad, a quad, you ride a quad, you play on a squad. So they're going into the semifinals. So congratulations to the under-16 Spartans for that. Let's jump in. We got a bunch of comments for some reason already ready to go. So Jesse says around 4.54 billion years ago, it was 1,200 degrees. About 100 million years ago, the Earth started achieving flux cooling. There's so much to do with the weather for sure. Around 50 million years ago, the amount of oxygen started to decrease due to the overwhelming amount of hydrogen. Dave says, good, we're going to be discussing how the hottest temperatures ever recorded, flooding, droughts, forest fires, tornadoes. But if we ignore it, it didn't happen. Yes, exactly. This show is for you, Dave. You're going to love it. Just every percentage of oxygen we lose to hydrogen that turns into water, we gain 0.12 degrees. So it's not global warming to be running out of oxygen, which is the main cooling gas of our planet. So there's much to the science, and it's not just a black and white issue. We know that the planet is that's heated and cooled over billions of years, many times. And so we are no different than that now. The Earth is still here, and it's still going through climate changes. It always has, it always will, and that's just the way it is. Now, what we're making of it now, and what's politicized or weaponized with that, some of that information, and whether the information is 100% correct, we're going to talk about today a little bit. Getting a little bit of that. Anyways, we're not going to understand the whole thing in a half an hour. Like, give me a break, as if anyone's going to do that. But we're going to shed some light on it, and maybe question a few things. That's all we can do here. And but first things first, the Sudbury Area's Health Unit developing a new strategic plan. It's looking for the public to weigh in. So glad to see that our Sudbury Public Health Unit, District Health Unit, is looking for your say on your community. So Public Health Sudbury and Districts is asking people to complete a time-limited online survey to help guide the agency's next strategic plan. And you can have your say by identifying priorities and approaches for how the agency delivers services. The survey results will guide public health in fulfilling its mandate in the Sudbury and Manitoulin districts. Have your say until 4:30 p.m. on Friday, August the 4th. It should take less than 15 minutes to complete the survey. Our strategic plan guides public health, works with municipalities and community partners to promote and protect health and prevent disease within our diverse communities. Renee Lapierre, chair of the Board of Health for Sudbury, Public Health Sudbury and Districts, said in a release, since April, we've engaged with members of the Board of Health, public health staff, and some community partners to update the strategic plan. And now we want to hear from community members and other partner agencies. Dr. Penny Sutcliffe, who made almost $1 million 2 years ago, and for 1 year's work, medical officer of health and chief executive officer of Public Health Sudbury and Districts, noted the agency provides a wide range of public health programs and services. She said, strategic plan is a blueprint that outlines how that work gets done in communities with residents and with partner agencies. Everyone is encouraged to complete the survey, help us affirm the strategic priorities and values that will guide our work over the next 3 to 5 years. And then if you go to it's a Sudbury Star article, but we've shared it on our Sudbury News Facebook page. There's a link there. Tells you where to go to complete that survey. You can fill that out. Have your say in how Sudbury District Health Unit makes decisions on how to help us to be healthier. Is that what they do? I'm not sure. Do they help us be healthier? But they're there to, I guess, make decisions about how to, I guess, make policies and things to navigate your health. Yeah. So we'll have to maybe go into see what their mandate is exactly and how it exactly affects my health. I work out every day. I eat healthy. I intermittent fast every day. I keep my weight at a good weight. I do whatever I can. So I'm not sure how much more healthy I could be with their help. But anyways, Mona, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Canada's standard of living is falling behind other advanced economies. This is from CTV News. A new economic report from TD says Canada's falling behind the standard of living curve compared with its peers. So I thought we were doing really well, according to some people on this show commenting. The economy is doing great. So sounds like we're not doing so good. Maybe we'll check in with CTV and see how come.
Begin with breaking news on inflation in this country. The latest inflation numbers could come as a bit of relief to Canadians today. StatsCan numbers show that inflation tumbled in June, coming in at 2.8%. That puts it within the Bank of Canada's target range. While the relief was felt across much of the economy, Canadians still not getting the relief at the grocery store or at the bank. Food prices rose by 9.1% year over year, slightly faster than they did in May. Mortgage costs rose by a staggering 30.1% in June. BNN Bloomberg's Amber Kenwar joins me now with more. Amber, good morning. Good to see you. So inflation is down. We've hit that target zone that the Bank of Canada has talked so much about. Give us your sense, the broad picture of this report today.
So we did hit the target on a headline basis, but the details perhaps are not as inspiring. Let's go through it. Headline inflation coming in at 2.8%. That's the slowest pace of price growth that we have seen since March 2021. Except when you look at the details, almost all of this was driven by lower gasoline prices. Canadians are still dealing with stubborn core inflation. You probably see it when you go out there. And in fact, core inflation is still stubbornly elevated beyond where the Bank of Canada would like to see it. One of the parts that is remaining particularly stubborn is at the grocery store, Marcia. We are seeing inflation at the grocery store up 8%. That's the same as it was in May. That is still going to be a big problem for the Bank of Canada.
So speaking of the Bank of Canada, does today's report, do you think, maybe satisfy Tiff Macklem that there doesn't need to be another rate hike coming up in the fall?
I'm sorry, I can hear the wishful thinking in that question. And unfortunately, the answer is no. Most economists believe that today's inflation data, while the headline came down, confirms the need that a rate hike at the very least needs to remain on the table come the September meeting, again, because of those stubborn numbers on a core basis. Now, you could definitely ask the question, well, what is a rate hike going to do to food inflation? Probably not a whole lot. However, it is the bank's mandate to try and bring that inflation number down to its 2% target. And so it has to do what it can to affect other areas of the market that might be running a little bit hot.
Okay, so we're grateful to CTV News for providing that story. Didn't get really much about how it compares to other countries there. That was the headline, though. Canada's standard of living falling behind other advanced economies. But I guess the news story didn't quite live up to that headline. Andy says, well, there's a good reason for the economy of this country. We have a communist running this country. What else do you think is going to happen? Wake up. Okay, so that is from Andy. Deep Cove, BC, being turned into 15-minute city. So I thought that was interesting. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I guess there was some talk some time ago from those commenting on the show that wanted us to talk about it, and there was others who said it was a conspiracy theory. So I just thought we would share this to the people of Deep Cove to let them know it's a conspiracy theory. They don't really have a sign that has Canada's logo on it saying livable Deep Cove, COVID resilience 15-minute city ready. That it cost $3.3 million with Canada's logo on it on a city fence there. That don't worry about it. It is a conspiracy. They don't have to worry about it. Deep Cove is in the easternmost part district of North Vancouver. For those who aren't aware of where it is, this is from the Western Standard. A sign in North District Vancouver says, a more accessible and vibrant public space along Gallant Avenue between Panorama Drive and Banbury Road will be 15-minute city ready. Deep Cove is, like I said, where it is, easternmost part of North Vancouver. Construction began in early 2023 on the livable Deep Cove project design, which includes permanent one-way vehicle traffic on Lower Gallant, expanded sidewalks and streetlights, movable bollards, flex zones, and protected pedestrian areas for parking, trees, and improved road surfaces. A new green infrastructure system will also be installed that includes new trees, underground soil cells, and rain gardens to improve biodiversity, reduce future sidewalk buckling, and enhance pedestrian flow. However, existing trees along Gallant will be removed. New ones will be planted. Sidewalks on both sides. Minor works such as landscaping completion will be done in August. Final paving expected to take place in late July. So it's ready to go. The idea of the 15-minute city was unveiled at COP21 in 2015, an urban design concept to make needed amenities available to anyone within a 15-minute walk or bike ride. Although the idea has caught on in Edmonton, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and other Canadian cities, many Canadians are leery. Tish Perkins Trebner of Woodstock, Ontario, says 15-minute cities isn't a terrible idea in itself. Having necessities of life closer to home isn't a bad thing. The issue lies with surveillance and data collecting, and of course, restriction of movement to areas outside of the 15-minute zone. It's government overreach at its finest, and it's the end of freedom. Crucify 15-minute cities by simply saying no. In Edmonton, Joy Wilnot says, or Joy Why Not, says fines for freedom of movement concern her. A precedent comes from Oxford, UK, which will divide the city into 15-minute districts in 2024. People with permits get 100 visits a year and fines equal to $56 Canadian for each additional trip. BC resident Carrie Cottard has a similar assessment. Total control, communism, dictatorship, the same thing Hitler did, only this is on a global scale. They'll become ghettos. History repeating itself on a much larger scale. Lori Growth of Hay Lakes, Alberta agrees, except this time the wall will be built electronically and all citizens will be captive, not just Jews. Always starts out as a nice idea until it's not. Darcy Atkinson of the Grand Prairie, Alberta, calls 15-minute cities the second step to total domination over the world. COVID was the first step to see how we would respond, and like sheep, we followed. And there's more people's views on that in this particular article. You can read it. We shared it on our Facebook news feed, and it's there. So those that are still kind of questioning whether or not it is a thing, and if it's being adopted by cities around the world, including those in Canada, just read that story and you can do your own looking into it to find out for yourself if it is indeed a conspiracy theory or it is indeed something that's being implemented, and if it's something that's going to either bless your world or curse your world, or you're going to be kind of in the middle of it. Who cares? You know, it's up to you to look into it, and that's all we can do here is look at that, look at things, ask questions, and then it's up to you after that. I'm not here to spoon feed anything to anybody. Just help you to question and make sense of the world that you are living in. So, okay, tinfoil hats I see here. So exactly. So again, right? So it's a conspiracy theory that's actually happening. I don't know how that's possible in today's world. I guess that's where we're at. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre stops in Sudbury on July 27th. He'll be at the Radisson Hotel. I believe that's Thursday. So anyone who wants to go down there and listen to the federal conservative leader, he'll be hosting a rally at the Radisson Hotel on July the 27th. You can just click on that. That's shared from Sudbury.com. Get the details on when he'll be speaking if you want to catch that. Another Ontario University hiring faculty based on race. So the University of Guelph's Department of Sociology and Anthropology is looking to hire a new assistant professor, but eligible applicants must identify as Black or Indigenous. That's interesting. Same university, it looks like. Protesters surround, oh no, this is Belleville. Protesters surround Prime Minister Trudeau in Belleville. An event for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was cut short in Belleville, Ontario, after nearly 100 protesters surrounded him. And then I guess this is calling for tougher security to be around the Prime Minister as people, it looks like more and more are disgruntled with his policies and his leadership. And someone was just asking here, did he speak to them? And the answer is probably no. Here's another article here. Trudeau's visit to Belleville, Ontario, cut short by protesters shouting traitor on Thursday. Okay. We covered this before, but I thought I would share this just for those who wanted to look into it more. I thought I might look into it more here, but we have other things to talk about. Federal workers can now claim $75,000 in gender-affirming services. That's as of July 1st. Federal government workers and their families will be entitled up to $75,000 in reimbursements for gender-affirming procedures. Wow, interesting. I would say that's probably quite a lot of money if you had a family of 5 and they all needed gender-affirming procedures. That could get pretty costly. And how many government workers are there now? Justin Trudeau added over 100,000 new federal employees since he's been in power. So that's a lot of money. So let's get right into it today. This is Dave's show. Dave was wondering why we weren't talking enough about the climate situation, the amount of fires that we have. The temperatures have been going up record numbers, right? And so I thought Jimmy Dory had a really great take on this, and he did a little bit of researching into it. So I thought we'd look into that. But first off, I have a couple. Let's see if I got time for this. I think I do. Just about the lay of the land of how things have been handled in our country, our world for the last little while. In terms of numbers and what they mean and why, why have things been the way they have been for the last 3 years or so? Things have seemed to be ramping up quite a bit. And so here's Corey Morgan, a little bit of his take on the situation. We'll be back right after this.
Well, I want to ask, why aren't the unvaccinated dying? Yeah, I know, a little bit loaded, but it's worth asking. In the last 6 months, 94% of Canadians didn't bother getting COVID-19 boosters. Now, remember, we've been told over and over, we have to get these boosters every 6 months or this is coming back. Well, only 6% of Canadians have bothered to do that. Now, with a campaign of coercion using fear, economic duress, and social ostracization, Canada did manage to twist the arms of Canadians hard enough to get 80% of the population to get 2 doses of the vaccine. The number of people taking part, though, in the lifetime of booster shots recommended by many medical experts who often coincidentally are in the pharmaceutical industry is dropped pretty dramatically. Now, in response to this, we're starting to see a push again from authorities to try and coax the citizens into getting yet another injection this fall. With hindsight, we've learned that the vaccinations, at least, they may reduce symptoms, but they did nothing to prevent the spread of COVID-19, though we were told by many medical experts and politicians it would. The entire basis of locking unvaccinated people from business establishments, schools, social gatherings, and travel was on the false premise that vaccine prevents transmission. Another thing we know now, too, is while COVID-19 is a serious virus, it presents little serious risk to young, healthy people. Children are virtually immune to COVID-19, and adults rarely experience anything worse than flu-like symptoms from the virus if they feel any symptoms whatsoever, unless, of course, they had a few comorbidities, which includes advanced age. There was never a need to coerce young, healthy people into vaccinations and boosters, and there still isn't now, unless you're in the business of selling vaccines, of course. This isn't opinion. This is just medical and statistical reality. When it was found that people weren't cooperating and getting boosters every 6 months, as they were told, the fear campaign was ramped up, though. We were told COVID-19's always going to be with us, and if we don't all get boosters, hospitals will surely be overwhelmed, and the bodies will pile up in the seats as the virus would resurge. Well, the resurgence of COVID-19 never happened, and it won't. Vulnerable people have been vaccinated, probably a good idea. And despite the dire warnings from the experts, the unvaccinated haven't been decimated by the infection. I know most of us just want to leave the pandemic experience and misery in the rearview mirror. It dominated our lives for years, and we just don't want to relive it. Like it or not, though, we can't let the doomsaying henny pennies off the hook for what they did to us all. These panic-pushing patsies haven't given up, and they'll come out of the woodwork to demand lockdowns and mandated masking at the first sign of an increase in COVID-19 levels or the emergence of any new virus. They thrive on fear. And authoritarians at all levels of government love to indulge those fears with legislation targeting the freedoms of citizens. The panic-porn pushers were dead wrong. We can't forget that, and we can't let our elected officials forget that. If we let the memory of how badly we were treated by a state in panic over a virus fade, we're inviting another similar event to happen. The government's changed the information it shares on the booster status of Canadians now, actually, to only include the last 6 months. Now, why is that? It's our information, isn't it? What purpose is being served in hiding that information from our own citizens? The reason, of course, is they don't want us to know just how dismal their own numbers are. They don't want people to see just how few citizens are falling for the lifetime of boosters recommendation. Again, guys, 6%, that's nothing to brag about. If indeed those things were preventing things, we should be overrun. by infections. With the information being limited to just the last 6 months, though, the picture's still pretty bleak, right? The number puts lie to the case of fear still being made as we're pushed to get an injection twice a year. If the boosters save lives, why is the lack of uptake, why isn't it killing us? COVID-19 is still around. The virus is endemic, and it's still seriously harming vulnerable people with comorbidities. It's still infecting healthy people, though they often don't even feel the symptoms if it's just a flu. If the motivation for pushing boosters on citizens isn't based on health, though, must be financial. What better market could a drug manufacturer possibly hope for than a populace coerced by a government into taking your product? But the coercion is failing, and people aren't getting more jabs. That's great news. Don't think for a second, though, that those invested in pushing mass COVID-19 vaccinations have given up. They're lobbying governments, they're influencing the press, and they're just waiting for the next chance to try and whip up a profitable panic over a potential pandemic. We have to remain on guard. The pandemic experience and its associated lockdowns isn't finished. The last few years have just been the opening chapter of that book. So again, guys, hindsight's good for nothing if we don't make use of it. So let's not forget these things, and let's keep watching those numbers. It's important.
Did you hear the news today about you? Probably not.
Sure what just happened
Tucker
there.
Carlson's.
There you go. I'm really not sure what happened there. That's interesting. So, yeah. I promise that that will make some sense here into the next one, which I'm not sure exactly happened, but I'm building up to the idea of, the numbers, the idea of what's going on, like why are we told certain things? Okay, so let's look at this here. There we go. And I'm not sure where that went or why that went, but here it is. Oh yeah, there you go. I already had it.
Trust the science.
Trust the science.
The superheroes, the scientists.
I'm tired of hearing that.
Trust the science! Trust the science!
Today, fewer Americans say they trust science.
They don't trust science because science is increasingly untrustworthy.
Science writer Andrew Follett has analyzed research for NASA and the Energy Department.
The only group that trusts science right now is Democrats.
I trust the scientists.
Maybe that's because much government science is being misused by politicians. For example, some activists want to limit ocean fishing with something they call the Climate Solutions Act. It calls climate change the greatest threat to American national security and promises equitable solutions to every special group of victims. The administration's deputy director of climate told Congress that the bill will bring
exciting, urgently needed progress on climate change.
Jane Lubchenco cited this paper that made the remarkable claim that closing more of the ocean to fishing can increase catches of fish.
I saw oceans of opportunity.
But oops, the paper was retracted. One scientist called its logic biologically impossible. And it turned out the paper was written by Lubchenco's brother-in-law. But she never told Congress that, or that she edited the paper.
It's an egregious violation.
Her goal is to get the government to spend more on environmental regulation. And the party in power likes that. So they don't care if she just breaks the rules.
They could not care less. Her job from their perspective is to generate papers that rationalize and justify the regulations they want to impose.
The White House never punished Lubchenco for her ethics violation. In fact, after her testimony, she was appointed co-head of President Biden's Scientific Integrity Task Force.
We need to have scientific integrity.
Now, the National Academy of Sciences has banned her for her improper conduct. Yet she's still head of scientific integrity for the White House.
Today's bad government science goes well beyond a few bad actors. A lot of what's called science today is just left-wing advocacy.
New fields like fat studies, African studies, Latinx studies, queer studies, these fields are essentially entirely fake.
Fake? Well, some of it's clearly fake because specialists in these fields keep being fooled by people who submit gibberish. This ridiculous paper, Embracing Fatness as Self-Care in the Era of Trump, was accepted by this university's Fat Studies Conference. It was written by this person.
Hello, I am C. Matheson.
The conference invited C. Matheson, who is actually comedian Steven Crowder, to speak via Zoom. Crowder disguised himself as a woman and did.
You may believe, wrongly as many people do, that fat is a threat to your life.
His speech was absurd.
Every scoop of Ben & Jerry's should be seen as an act of resistance.
But attendees gave him rave reviews. What a talk. They praised his presentation of Donald Trump's fat phobia and said this could be part of how we fight rape culture. After the conference, the head of the Journal of Body Weight and Society even asked C. Matheson to review a scientific paper. Crowder's just the latest person to pull off a hoax like that.
I have now closely considered the revisions of your manuscript, Dog Park. And
these researchers fooled the journal Gender, Place, and Culture with a ludicrous paper on rape culture at dog parks.
And will recommend its publication in Gender, Place, and Culture.
In all, 7 so-called scientific journals accepted their ridiculous submissions. Follett blames this perversion of science on the government.
The government wants to generate that kind of nonsense.
Now, the government doesn't want nonsense studies, but its science agencies, like much of America, have been taken over by leftists who want to promote their agenda and themselves. And in science, you promote yourself by getting papers published.
Important papers can advance careers, generate media interest, and secure essential funding.
And government provides most of that funding.
Nobody wants to publish something that goes against what the paymaster says.
You don't get the tenure track position unless you get published. And you don't get published unless...
You don't get published unless the NSF likes your results.
Or the NIH, or the CDC. That's how bad science gets published.
there was this paper well funded by the National Science Foundation. It said that glacier science is sexist.
Because the majority of glaciological knowledge that we have today stems from knowledge created by men about men.
Our National Science Foundation gave her research team almost $500,000.
It's our tax money paying for it. I'm ticked off.
They're giving it out specifically to promote their agenda.
Wrong as this is, I don't think most Americans know or care that people in government now use your money to promote progressive nonsense.
I mean, I think we'll all start caring when the bridges start falling down and the planes start crashing. That's the inevitable end result of this.
So all this leading up to giving a little bit of a background of where we get our numbers from, what's going on, like how all this leads to confusion at the end of the day, all leading up to Dave's wanting us to talk about the climate situation and how hot it's gotten over the last week or so. So here's Jimmy Dory talking about that.
So you remember last week they were talking about it's the hottest in the world. It was the hottest. Everybody's over.
Last week?
Or was it, when was it? It was just a couple days ago. They were saying it's the hottest in the world. The whole world's hotter than it's ever been. It's hot everywhere.
Is this different than the last time not long ago when they were like measuring an airstrip where like jets were taking off? Is this like a new thing of that?
This is like that.
Okay.
So he says this guy tweets out, he says the most intense climate lie last week, Kurt, it was all over the news. Temperatures in southern Europe skyrocketing to 48 degrees Celsius, but none of it was true. Look, I'm going to be honest. You lost me at Celsius.
Is it cold?
If it ain't Fahrenheit, it didn't happen. That's how this is America.
Goddamn right.
So what is, hey Siri, 48 degrees Celsius is what Fahrenheit?
Well, that is hot.
Wow, that's hot then.
That's probably hotter than Mexico.
A little bit. 118 degrees Fahrenheit. But none of it was true, says this guy. What we experienced over the past days was the most intense climate lie since temperature recording began, reported Germany's Achtung Ricket here on the implications of the ESA's sloppy, manipulative press release and the media firestorm that ensued. What? Huh? You're telling me that it wasn't true? It wasn't the hottest? The problem with that report is that none of it is true. In Sicily, the temperature reached only 32 degrees Celsius over the weekend, a far cry from the 48 degrees Celsius, which illustrates the great difference between ground surface temperature and readings taken 2 meters above the ground. Land surface temperature is how hot the surface of the earth feels to the touch. Air temperatures, given in our daily weather forecasts, is a measure of how hot the air is above the ground. The ESA did not bother to mention how the surface temperature is much hotter than the 2-meter air temperature. So what everybody was screaming about last week was some report that didn't take the air temperature, but took the ground temperature. That's not what they normally do in a weather forecast. Weather forecasts take the air temperature. So we've always heard that. I know when I watch football games and they play on artificial turf, they'll go, oh, it's 95 degrees, but on the turf, it feels like 120. They'll say that all the time, or they used to anyway. I think they're getting rid of AstroTurf because it heats up too much. And so the AstroTurf way hotter than the air above the AstroTurf. And so they released the ground temperature because they knew that would scare the hell out of people more, Kurt.
Well, that's how you give people a nudge. With intense fear, always.
So the hysteria was started when climate sensationalist media outlets in Germany and elsewhere, like the Spiegel, uncritically cited a sloppily manipulatively formulated July 13th report from the European Space Agency, the ESA, that first referred to air temperature. You know what? By the way, do you know in German, Spiegel means mirror?
Yeah.
But I guess it's like one of those trick slim down mirrors they have at the Lane Bryant. That's what I think. So here's what they said. This is from the Spiegel. Temperatures are sizzling across Europe this week amid an intense and prolonged period of heat. And it's only just begun. Italy, Spain, France, Germany, and Poland are all facing major heat wave, with air temperatures expected to climb to 48 degrees Celsius on the islands of Sicily and Sardinia, potentially the hottest temperatures ever recorded in Europe. The original ESA report continued, only later specifying that it was in fact referring to surface temperature, not air temperature. The animation below uses data from the Copernicus Sentinel-3 mission's radiometer instrument and shows that land surface temperature across Italy between 9 and 10 of July, as image clearly shows, in some cities, the surface of land exceeded 45 degrees Celsius, including Rome, Naples, Taranto, and Foggia. Along the east slopes of Mount Etna and Sicily, many temperatures were recorded at over 50 degrees Celsius, but that's the land temperature. That's not the air temperature.
So they were. I missed it. They were not in any way saying this is the hottest land temperature. They're purposely conflating it with the air temperature.
That's what it looks like to me, Kurt. Meant here were not the standard temperatures recorded at 2 meters above the ground level that we always hear in daily weather reports, which are much cooler, but rather those right at the ground surface. Okay. The crucial difference went totally unnoticed by media and journalists who reported of new record high temperatures. By the time the ploy was exposed by careful readers, the news had already gone around the world.
As the hottest, the winner of the... So they transitioned the numbers that then beat the biological numbers to become the hottest.
So it's like that old saying that a lie can make its way around the world before the truth gets its pants on.
Well, yeah, if you own the media.
That's right. Yesterday, the ESA issued a vague clarification explaining the difference between surface and air temperatures at 2 meters above ground, yet continued to mislead. Land surface temperature is how hot the surface of the earth feels to the touch. Air temperature, given in our daily weather forecast, is a measure of how hot the air is above the ground. The ESA did not bother to mention how the surface temperature is much hotter than the 2-meter air temperature. So let's just cut to the shit. Let's cut the shit. Should I glue my head to a Rembrandt or not?
Thank you.
So somebody put this together. I saw this on Twitter. So here in 2017, same temperatures, we're all green. Now look, they're trying to. So the implication here is they're trying to scare the hell out of everybody. Oh, we're climate change, and they're using climate change to control you, to get you to not eat meat anymore or organic food, to get you so they can control your food supply, so they can control your digital currency, the way you travel. So it seems to me that the establishment wants to scare us about climate change so they can use it to screw us over in certain ways. And that's what it seems like to me. Now, I wish my friend, who is a climate, what do you call what are weathermen called? They're called meteorologists.
Meteorologists, yeah.
And he knows a lot more about this stuff than me. I invited him on the show. He couldn't make it. So I'd like to get him to push back. So, because I would like someone to push back on this story.
Mm-hmm. With an explanation. And I won't even dignify that.
Right. So, because what I say is that I was 100% on board with climate change and everything the establishment said about climate change and what we needed to do until COVID. Until COVID, I was like, oh, so they can lie right to your face and ubiquitously, from the president of the United States to the head of the FDA to the head of the CDC to every news agency to every newspaper to every host on cable show, everyone could ubiquitously lie to you, not just about one thing, but about 10 million things, and they're the biggest things in your life. And so that also after Russiagate. Now you see that Russiagate it's revealed from the Durham report that Russiagate was a hoax, 100% made up by the FBI and the Clinton campaign, and that everyone knew it at the FBI, and so did Barack Obama. And nobody knows. So what if they can pull that off? They can pull off Russiagate and make people think that everybody still thinks that Russia overthrew our election, including my brother. What do you want to say, Kurt?
Because I believe that I was like, there's
Russiagate.
No, not Russiagate. No,
climate change.
Yeah, there's not two sides of this. All the science says
That's
it's
right.
happening.
That I was the same way.
So I guess around the time when I found out that carbon footprint thing was from BP is when I was like, hey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What you're gonna lecture everybody about an oil company?
Is going to lecture about your carbon footprint. That's what you're saying.
I used to smoke Marlboro. They never had the balls to lecture me about my tar footprint.
So I started to notice this when Bill Gates he says that we have to eat bugs and we have to change our life, but he still flies around on private jets. And he said, "Well, I buy carbon offsets." Well, if you thought jet travel and stuff was actually making us have climate change, you would stop doing that, no matter how, and you would just go ahead and buy all kind of carbon off. You wouldn't still fly around in a private jet.
Can I just to be fair to Bill Gates, he does look like a guy who eats bugs.
Yes, he does. But it's like I don't, I keep the faucet going in my bathtub 24/7, but I buy water. I buy water offsets.
I light big forest fires every year, but then
I buy. You don't have. But the point is, you don't have to fly around the world in a private jet, so you don't have to. So that's my big point. I see all these people, and the first thing they want to do to fight climate change is shut down Dutch farms. Now they're shutting down German farms, killing 200,000 cows.
Yeah, that's not weird.
What? That is weird. Yeah, I know, right? And so the biggest emitter of carbon in the world is the U.S. military. We have 1,000 military bases around the world. They say 800, but a lot of them are secret. So let's go with 800. Nobody is proposing they shut down 600 or 700 of those military bases. Those are the biggest climate emitters. Nobody's proposing that. But you want me to change my lifestyle first? I'm going to say F you. I will start doing things to fight climate change the way the establishment wants me to when they first start shutting down, 100 or 200 military bases that they have around the world.
So Jimmy Dore just reflecting on the confusion that was over the climate scare over the last couple of weeks, that it was the hottest temperatures on Earth, and so just thought the news doesn't come out and say, "Oh, sorry, we screwed up," because it's part of a political agenda, and they're paid by the very people who want and benefit from the scariness of things and to make policies. And whoever benefits from something is usually, if you investigate a crime, it's usually the motive is what someone's going to benefit from, right? So whoever benefits from things. So during the pandemic, who benefited? You just have to make a list on your, piece of paper. Who benefited from the pandemic? Did anybody benefit? Did I benefit? Did you? Who benefited? Are there companies that benefited? Were there organizations who could have benefited? Then look at that. Then who benefits from these things? And could they possibly be, wanting to at least promote them? And would they then add different things to make them, not 100% true, just to go in their favor, right? So I saw somebody say that Trump was put in office by Russia, and then was telling me I'm talking in absolutes and stuff like that. So you have proof that Russia put Donald Trump in power? Message me with those proofs, and I'll share them on the show. That you have proof. Somehow you have intel in your living room in Sudbury. Someone who's just, has no intel whatsoever. For sure Russia put Donald Trump in power. And you're telling me that I'm talking in absolutes and I'm sharing ideas that are false and they're my own ideas. I'm saying you don't know. I'm saying that could be, but you have no clue what you're talking about. How about that? How about that's truth? How about none of us have 100% of the truth? How about that? How does that feel good to say? That you don't really know for sure? That I'm saying he could have been, but I'm saying you don't really know that for sure? And to hear other points of view, the more you hear, and you don't get caught in some kind of echo chamber, just hearing the same things over and over and over. Just want to wake you up a little bit, wake up our brains. That's what we do in the morning. That's why you have coffee. Wake up your brains. Think of things from a different angle every once in a while. Don't get caught up in the same old, same old. You actually have no idea what you're talking about. How about that? Doesn't it feel good to say that to yourself? That you're human and you have no clue? You know less about something than you know about something. The more you know, the less you know. That's the truth. That's the human experience. But together, we try and have a community where we're trying to make sense of the world we live in. How about that? How about I'm not coming across saying that I know anything for sure. I'm just putting it out there that most people don't like to open their minds up to other ideas that they don't like trying other foods they've never tried before. They don't like going places they've never been. They don't like trying different sports they've never tried before. They just keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, which is the definition of. All right, well, that's all the time we have. So we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, God willing, to try and give us a little mind shake up again if we can, or if we're just, want to stay where we're at, you're still welcome on the show. And it was a great conversation. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who commented today, listened, watched, and appreciate Earshot Daily, which is coming up immediately following this show on CKLU. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great one, everyone. Ciao.